Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about the best business movies that you can watch right now. And so I'm going to kind of divide these into two categories, one of which is just based on how well it's good at educating you about, some aspect of business. And then two is going to be like those entertainment business movies, the ones that are like really good, whether they're, dramas or some sort of comedy or something like that with the business aspect on the side. So we're going to start off with the best educational ones that I've ever seen. And so this one is amazing, and it's called, most people haven't heard of it, but it's called Something Ventured. And this is a absolutely fantastic business movie, especially if you're an investor. I highly recommend watching this. It was on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's still on there. I watched it a couple years ago. And so pretty much what it's about is these people. It's a documentary about this group of investors. I think they were called the Treacherous Eight or something like that. It's been a while since I saw it. But these group of like 8 to 10 investors that were all friends, and they all kind of worked together over the course of a few decades as investing, and they ended up becoming some of the wealthiest investors in history. They talked about their investments in Apple. There's a guy named Arthur Rock, I think his name is, who invested in a bunch of those companies. So it was about these people, they invested in Apple, like Intel, Oracle, people, like big giant companies. A lot of them were tech companies, and how they all became super wealthy. And they talk about their investing strategies and what it's like working with all these famous people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all this stuff. Fantastic movie about investing. And so 100% can't recommend it enough. 2, I actually just saw this one recently and I tweeted about it. This is more of lets you into the psychological aspect of wealth, and it's called The Divide. Now this is on Netflix. It's a documentary. I think it came out last year or 2 years ago. This is a fantastic movie for explaining how the wealthy and the poor have different mindsets or different thought processes about money, and like how to attain money, and the values of money, like what they want to use their money for. Like a lot of rich people, they want to use money for like a little bit of showing off, and two to kind of be part of a club, and 3, security. Like they like gated areas and gated communities, and like driving around in golf carts and watching their fancy cars and all this stuff. And then poor people, you see that they just want money to get by. Like they just want food. They just want to be able to go out for dinner kind of thing. They want money for temporary pleasure, and wealthy people want it for like long-term kind of pleasure in a way. But also saying that it actually it follows like 6 or 7 people with different income levels. So the poor people, unfortunately, are people that one of them is like an alcoholic. One of them works, I think, at a fast food chain and doesn't really make too much money. And then it's like one's, a psychologist who, middle class to upper class psychologist. There's an investor who makes $1 million easily a year. There's a few more that I just forget, but it's a fantastic movie. I can't recommend this enough. It teaches you a little bit how you should be thinking about money in a way, and how you shouldn't be thinking about money. So the third one is, oh my God, when I saw this movie, it was so cool. It's Print the Legend. And what I really, really liked about this, it covers, the movie's a documentary about the 3 3D printing companies, 3D. And, but the thing that I really liked about it is that it covered a lot of them when they just started. Like one of them was working out of their garage, and there was like 3 people working. And it covers them over a course of 5 years or 6 years, and how the company just grows. Like you see this company starts out from 3 people. I think it's called MakerBot, and then they eventually got bought out, but 3 people, and then like 10 people, and then 40 people, and then they move into a corporate office, and it shows you what it's like to grow a company. And it's absolutely amazing. So I can't recommend this enough. Again, Print the Legend. These movies are all great, by the way. These are the educational ones. These aren't necessarily the entertaining ones. This one, if you want to understand the 2008 recession, watch Inside Job. That's what it's about. It's narrated by Matt Damon. It was a big movie. I actually saw this in theaters, I think. And then I watched it on Netflix a few times. Inside Job, great movie. Just talks about how all the banks failed in 2008, and great movie. So this one is it's one that everyone knows, The Big Short. Again, it talks about a group of people that took advantage of the 2008 recession by shorting a bunch of stocks and funds that had to do with, real estate, stuff like that, mortgages, insurance companies, all that kind of stuff. Great movie. Everyone knows about it though, so I'll just move on. Oh yeah, I highly recommend this one too. I recommend all of these. I should stop saying that. Another one is The Founder, which I watched this year. So The Founder is about Ray Kroc and how he kind of took over the McDonald's brand and became the owner of it. And it talks about how McDonald's is a secret real estate company. And Ray Kroc, I still remember that one scene where Ray Kroc meets his eventual future CEO of the company, and this guy walks in and he says, look, you're making 2 cents on every burger. This was in the 60s or 70s. You're in the wrong business. You don't realize that you're not in the fast food industry. You're in the real estate industry. And so what you should be doing is buying out all the land that your McDonald's is on and renting that out to your franchisee. But The Founder is great. It's a biography it's in a way a biography on Ray Kroc. So anyways, we're going to move on here. I guess that I'm not going to write this one down, but there's 5 different Warren Buffett documentaries. They're all great. There was a new one, I think it's called Becoming Warren Buffett, that came out last year. That one's a good movie too. It talks about his investing strategy, how he was able to get so rich so fast. By so fast, I mean over 5-6 decades. So another one is called Requiem for the American Dream. This is I don't know who the director was, but Noam Chomsky. He was the main person talking in this movie, and it talks about the income inequality and how the American dream is kind of half dead, in a way not really dead. It talks about how it's hard to climb up the wealth ladder these days, kind of stuff like that. So it's a good movie. And one that's along those similar lines is called Inequality for All. Inequality for All talks about how income inequality in the United States is at an all-time high. It talks about how countries in Northern Europe, they don't have a lot of income inequality and everyone is happy there, which I don't know, I disagree with a little bit. But actually, I'm going to talk about income inequality for a second. This will be a separate video, but one thing I want to mention is that everyone thinks that income inequality is absolutely terrible, and I would say extreme versions of income inequality is terrible, but there has to be some in order for a country to be innovative and productive. So here's something that I want you to think about, is that would you rather, there's 2 scenarios, have an income tax for the wealthy at 70 to 75%, like it is in a handful of countries in the world. Canada is close to that. I mentioned this before, if I keep going at the rate I'm going at, there's a chance I'm going to have to pay 60% or 56% in taxes based on my income. Now I'm finding ways around that, like real estate, which pretty much cuts your taxes in half, if not more. But yeah, so would you rather be taxed at 80% and have zero innovation? So there's no iPhones coming out, there's no new computers coming out, there's nothing like that. There's no sort of innovation, there's no spark for an economy, but everyone's happy and everyone's, having fun and stuff, but you're kind of stuck in the same zone of innovation? Or would you rather be taxed at 30% like it is in the States and middle class of Canada and have innovation, have the new iPhones coming out, have the new tech companies, have the apps coming out, all that kind of stuff? So I would lean much more to the lower tax, higher innovation. And but saying that, I understand both sides. I know a lot of people that would love to, move to Sweden. You get 3 years off if you have a kid. All daycare and school is paid for. So it's just a big trade-off here. Now, saying that, I'm in a pretty, high wealth bracket and area. So this is someone who is in a wealthy area that's talking about how we should be, have lower taxes. And meanwhile, I wasn't like this when I wasn't making a lot of money. 6-7 years ago when I was a teenager, I was saying, hey, tax everyone at 80% so that I can get 3 years off if I have a kid. But now when, it's like, I think Philip DeFranco said it, like the fastest way to become a conservative or to want lower taxes, the fastest way to do that is to build a business and make money. And then you realize, like, you don't really get, especially if you're a small business owner, you don't get as much of a tax break as you think. In fact, you probably get taxed more than the average employee. So we're going to move on here. There's a few more, and then we're going to get into there's one more, and then we're going to get into an entertaining movie. So this one is kind of a side business movie, and it's called Merchants of Doubt. And it talks about the lobbyists for tobacco companies in the 60s and 70s and 80s are the exact same people who are lobbying against climate change for the oil companies. So it's just a kind of interesting movie how giant corporations are funding lobbying to put doubt into people's mind about whether climate change is caused by fossil fuels or if lung cancer is caused by smoking. It's very fascinating. It's not necessarily it doesn't have to do with investing or finances, but it does have to do with business and politics, which is cool. So I'm not going to write the rest of these, but I'll just sound them out here. Wolf of Wall Street, everyone knows that. So these are the entertaining business movies. So Wolf of Wall Street, everyone knows that, and I don't even have to talk about that, I don't think. So then after Wolf of Wall Street, there is the movie Wall Street, which came out in the late 80s, early 90s with Charlie Sheen. What's the other guy's name? Is it Michael Douglas? I forget the other guy's name. But it talks about how, like a stockbroker gets involved in insider trading, and it does a good explanation of what it was like to be a day trader or a swing trader, and why inside trading, why a lot of big time stock investors or day traders or whatever, why a lot of them do some very unethical things, and why the average person usually gets taken advantage of in terms of the stock market. So another one, The Social Network, everyone saw it. It's about building a business, all the drama that comes along with that. Great. Jerry Maguire, a good sport. He's a sports agent. It's a comedy. It's fun. It has to do a little bit with money and a little bit about commitment to your clients. So that's a good one. There Will Be Blood has to do with the oil fields, I think in the 1800s. I think it was 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s. Steve Jobs, the one with Michael Fassbender. That's a really cool one because anything with Steve Jobs in it kind of gives you a nice perspective on marketing and branding, and it also kind of shows you how much of a dick he was and how that's not always a good thing. So I recommend that movie. The last one I'm going to recommend, which I actually watched this for the 4th time last week, which is The Queen of Versailles. And it sounds kind of dumb, but so the movie starts out as a documentary on this family of one billionaire who owns Westgate Resorts, and I think his name's something Siegel, David Siegel, and then his trophy wife, supermodel, whatever, she was Miss Florida or something like that, and she's like 30 years younger than him or 20 years younger, and they have a family. They want to build the biggest house in America. So the movie starts when the house is half constructed or 1/3 constructed, and then 2008 happens, and this guy who owns a bunch of resorts and real estate, all of a sudden he owns a timeshare company too, and he goes essentially bankrupt. I don't know if he declared bankruptcy, but he pretty much loses all of his money. And so this movie turns from building the biggest house in America to what happens to companies, to big corporations and owners of big corporations once a recession hits. And it's just a fantastic movie. And again, I cannot recommend this enough. Apparently that house should be built soon. So they resumed building on it 2 years ago, and it should be done soon. It's like 60,000 square feet. Unbelievable. So those are the movies that I recommend. Do you have any recommendations? Leave a comment. I know one movie which I have yet to watch, which is on my list, or two of them, is a Glengarry Glen Ross. I haven't seen that. That movie's with Alec Baldwin, and it's I think there was a saying from that movie. It's something to do with selling, like always be closing. ABC, always be closing. That's where that came from. And I want to see, I think it's Enron. It's like Enron, the smartest guys in the room. I've yet to see that one. But if you have any recommendations, leave a comment. I want to hear them. And yeah, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people. I'll see you guys in the next video.